Hi, I'm Marius from MWest Photography and welcome back to Season 3 of Digital Photography Today, the show where you will learn how to become the master of your camera. Okay, now in this week's episode we are going to look at two things. We are going to talk about basic lens care tips to make sure your lens stays in the best condition possible, and this will also help people who use bridge cameras where you've got your lens cap and your UV filter. But other than that, this is more for people who own an SLR which has a lens that can come off the camera. Then we're going to talk about when stuff goes wrong. You've packed your gear, you're ready for your shoot. This might be a paid shoot for a client or just going out for fun, grabbing your gear, taking pictures. You get there, you didn't pack all the gear you needed because what was maybe explained to you, let's go driving today, a friend says. You get there and it's okay, you told us we were going to go take landscapes, now we're at the ocean, what now? So I'm going to walk you through my process that I go through when I pack my gear for any type of shoot. If it's paid or not, it doesn't matter. What do I do when I pack my gear? Okay, so the first thing, let's just look at basic lens care tips. Now the first thing, we've got our lens cap. Now you'll notice this is a Nikon lens, but this is a generic lens cap, it's not branded. Now I don't use my proper lens caps because you lose them. I haven't lost a ton of them, but I have lost one or two. Okay, so I'm on a wedding, I'm taking my pictures, grabbing a new lens, taking the lens cap, shove it in my pocket, and then later when I'm feeling my pocket, okay, it fell out, I don't know where it is, I've lost the lens cap. Now the problem is I want to maybe eventually sell that lens, I don't know. Now I don't have a lens cap for it, it's going to affect my resale value, or at least I think so. I haven't sold a lot of my lenses, I usually get very attached to my gear. So what do? I go buy a new lens cap, and you notice those original lens caps are pretty pricey. So I started buying these generic ones, which are really very cheap, and it's proper quality. You can feel when you use these lens caps, or at least most of them, are pretty strong and sturdy. It's just you don't have the Nikon or the Canon or Sony or whatever brand you're using, you don't have the brand name on there. Now when I buy a new lens, I take the proper lens cap, put it back in the camera's box, put it away, immediately put on a generic lens cap. If I do lose it, these guys are very cheap. And if I ever want to sell that lens, I put a brand new lens cap on here, making the lens look very spiffy and brand new. Okay, so that's the first thing, lens cap. Then we come to the UV filter. Now this for me is very important for two reasons. Firstly, what do you do, and you can see it just screws onto the front of the lens. What do you do if maybe you're taking pictures, something comes flying at you, it's the front of your lens, or you're taking a picture of something very close up, maybe it's a macro lens, and you scrape the front element of your lens because the picture you're taking might be of something that's very pointy or sharp, or for whatever reason you're taking a picture of something that may be considered dangerous and can damage the front of your lens. Okay, if you damage the front section of your lens, that's not good because you can't really do that much to it. It needs to be sent in, those optics are expensive, you might as well just buy a new lens. So I always fit on all my lenses a UV filter. If this gets damaged, it's not just such a big deal. These are pretty cheap, and also if you buy a very expensive lens, don't put a cheap UV filter on here. If you buy a camera with a kit lens, those normal 18 to 55s, these cheaper UV filters, not such a big deal. But the more expensive your lens go, make sure you buy the proper pro UV filters, because there's no point in having a very expensive lens and putting a cheap plastic, or not plastic, a cheap glass filter in front. You're basically defeating the purpose of having good glass and putting something cheap in front of it. Okay, so I've had on, I think it was the PowerShot S3 IS was my first bridge camera. I had one of these on the front. Now that camera came out with an adapter that you had to fit on the front, and the UV filter screwed in on the front. Now the camera was on a tripod. I was in vineyards taking a picture, and the tripod fell over, and the camera went straight into the ground. Now the lens obviously runs on a motor. If you've got a PowerShot, you will know. So if the front of that camera hits the ground, it's going to slam that lens back into the camera. Obviously going to damage the motors, not good. So what happened is that front adapter I had on broke a little bit. I had to super glue it, and the filter got damaged, the UV filter. So I just put a brand new UV filter on there, and the camera had no damage. I just kept on shooting. If I didn't have the UV on there and I didn't have that adapter on there, I would most probably have to chuck that camera in the dustbin, because I would have definitely broken the front motor or the lens or whatever on that camera. So a little tiny UV filter or cheap UV filter saved my camera. Okay, that's the one thing. You want to protect your lenses. Another important thing with these is maybe you're taking pictures at the ocean and you get some of that spray from the ocean coming on the front of your UV filter. Now, if you've ever experienced that, you'll notice your pictures will start to look terrible as light hits that spray, that gunk that's on the front of your lens or UV filter. It's very tricky to take pictures. You need to first clean it. Now, if you've tried to take your t-shirt to clean it, you'll notice you're just messing the filter up even more. You're just, don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but that spray, you just almost polish it more into that lens. It doesn't look good. So for that, I always take with me a lens cleaning cloth like this. It's a microfiber cloth. I've had this for years. I've got one in every camera bag, and you can't believe how clean this thing makes it. Even your glasses, use something like this, it cleans it perfectly. Okay, so now you're at the ocean, you've just some spray got on your UV filter. You can't take pictures, you can't clean it with your t-shirt, you don't have a microfiber cloth. What are you going to do the rest of the day? You take your UV filter off, and then just be very careful with your lens, because your lens is still clean. Remember, all the dust and stuff goes on this, not on this. So it gives you a second chance to keep shooting, even if this is dirty and you can't clean it on the day. So I always use a UV filter. And when you put the UV filter on, always make sure you have it properly in that groove that's on the inside of the lens, because if you go skew, you're going to damage the groove, and then getting that thing off again is tricky, and sometimes it gets so tricky to use a filter again on that thing, because the groove, you damage the groove, and then any new filter you put on there doesn't fit properly. Okay, and always make sure when you put the UV filter on, don't do this to the filter. You're going to have a hard time getting that filter off if you ever have to clean it. You'll notice I've tightened the filter, it's on there, but if I want it off, I just want proper turn backwards again, or counterclockwise, and the filter comes off again. So don't tighten it too much, because you're always going to put something else on you, like a UV. You maybe want to clean this. You don't want to struggle to get this off. Okay, then something that's very important, I've noticed not a lot of people know about, and they're very careless when it comes to this at the back of the lens. So they'll take this cap off, and they might have 2 or 3 or whatever amount of lenses in their bag. They grab the new lens, put it on, take the old lens, and just put it down like that in the bag. Forget the bag open, the outside, some wind comes, blows some sand or dust or whatever into that bag. Now, if you look at the lens like this, you should be able to see it on the video. As it is now, it almost looks like it's closed there. There's nothing that can go in there, so you can just wipe it, right, if there's dust coming in there. Well, if you take your lens and you zoom it like this, and you look in there again, I'm just going to do it like this, you should be able to see it on the video. You'll notice that piece of optic there is moving into the lens. I can even take my finger and I could put it into the lens like that. So if you put it down like that, any dust or sand that goes into that lens now, the next time you put it on your camera and you try to zoom or anything with it or focus, you'll basically hear with all that sand that's inside that. And also, you don't want dust and crap inside your lens. So if you leave it open like that, and like I said, I've seen a lot of people do it, they just quickly want to rush to get the next lens on to take the pictures, they forget about that cap. I always put it on, no matter if I'm going to miss a shot, I don't care. I put that cap on, because I've seen what goes into a lens. So if you really want to see what's in your lens, if you've been doing that, then open it up like that, or even keep it like that, and shine a torch at the back, and you can see what's going on the inside of your lens. So if you keep it open like that, lots of dust and stuff, just normal dust goes in there. You're going to work it all the way to the front as you're zooming and everything like normally. Even dust that comes in here on your lens gets worked into the lens just by zooming and everything. It goes in there, trust me. Dust, little tiny particles, it goes into your lens. So I'm always trying to limit any dust or any stuff going into my lens. It's not like I'm overprotective and I don't want to take proper shots in dodgy areas where it may be windy or sandy. I do take shots like that, but I just make sure I take care to keep my lenses in the best condition possible. So as you notice, it's so quick to put this back on. Make sure you use the cap at the back of your lens. Put your lens caps on. If you don't, you're going to continuously touch your front element, and you're also going to get like fingerprints and everything on. Then you need to clean it again. So always make sure you've got your lens cap on, you've got your UV filter in there, and you've got the cap at the back on your lens, and you'll trust me, your lens will be in much better shape. Okay, so that's all for the basic lens care tips. Now let's look at what to do when stuff goes wrong. Okay, I'm sure you've taken pictures where you were not properly prepared. You do not have all the gear you needed because you didn't think it through. You just grabbed your camera, you thought, okay, I'm just going to take my camera and go and shoot. Now, like I said earlier in the episode, the way I pack my gear, this might be for a paid shoot for a client, or it might just be I'm going out to take some pictures. What do I pack? How do I decide what I want to take with me? Now, usually before I go to take my shoot, I'll just be quiet for a while and just think my shoot through. Where am I going? What will be in that location? Will I be, say I'm taking landscapes, will I go to the ocean? Will I go to the mountains, to a river, to a waterfall? What do I need to pack to take the shot that I want to get? Will I need to control lighting? Must I maybe take a reflector with me? Will I need filters like my Koken ND filters or ND Grad filters? Will I need my polarizer? I just think it through and then make a list of everything I need to pack for the day, and it takes like a minute to do, and there you go, I pack all my gear. I also think, what can go wrong? Maybe I'm taking pictures of a waterfall, but I know the ocean is just another 30 kilometers that way. I don't know. So I make sure I pack maybe my cleaning cloth, so I know I can clean my lens if I maybe get some spray from the ocean on it. So I'm also thinking ahead, what can also happen during that day? So I know I'm packing all the gear I'm going to need. Now, I've had some problems that I didn't have all the gear that I needed to do a shoot, and it was a paid shoot as well. But then you learn from those mistakes, and then that's why I'm so careful when I'm packing my gear. So I'm going to share with you some stuff that went wrong and how I fixed it as well when I had all the stuff with me. So with everything I've got here, I've got a list and a bunch of stuff here I want to show you that I take with me when I do a shoot. Now the first thing is I'm going to talk about, say, background. Now say you're doing a shoot for someone and it's an on-location shoot. So they tell you, okay, please bring a white background or a black background, and we just want pictures with that. We want pictures with a white background or a black background. Okay, so you take your background with you and you think, okay, I'm going to need something to clamp my background with. So now I'm taking these clamps with me so I can clamp the background. Now you think, okay, where am I going to clamp this background? So you get to the venue, you think, okay, they're most probably going to have a curtain railing. I'm just going to clamp the background to the curtain railing. There you go, problem solved. You get to the location, there's only blinds on the inside of the window railing, and there's no curtain railing on it. So there's nowhere to hang your background. What do you do now? Now you've got a big problem. How are you going to hang the background and take your pictures? Okay, so what I do is I always take with me a background support system. Now, even if there might be a curtain railing, I always take this with me. So inside this bag, there is 2 tripods, nice and sturdy tripods, as well as a big bar. Now you can look at the video that I shot for this specific background support system. The link is here on the screen. You can watch that. But what's in that bag is basically 2 tripods, and obviously tripods I can move up and down, so I can control how high I want my background to be. And then on that is a pole that can extend. I think it extends up to 3 meters, and it's inside that, so it just extends. You don't need to attach everything. It goes into the bar, so you just pull it out, pull it out, pull it out, and I put my background over that, and I use my clamps and I clamp it. Okay, so now you're sorted. Even no matter where you're taking those pictures, I've actually done a shoot in a forest where it was on location. We need to take pictures in the forest, and they said, okay, we also want studio type pictures. Okay, well, there's a studio there, so make it. There you go. Background support system, pull it up, big black background right there in the forest, put your lights on, you've got a studio. Okay, so it can be done anywhere. You've got a proper support for your background. Okay, now we come to a big problem. Okay, you've taken your background, they said a white background or a black background. This is where a problem can occur. And this has happened to me once, and I made sure it doesn't happen again. So the client instructs me they want a black background. I get there, black background, they love the pics, and suddenly they say, I wonder what this would look like on a white background. Or actually, I think it was a white background. It's the other way around. It was a white background. Got there, took the shots, they loved it, and they said, what about if we use a black background? I don't have a black background with me. So my wife quickly had to drive back home, got it from the studio, black background, there we go. So now I take with me all my backgrounds. I take my white background, I've got my black background, I've got this one, which I'm not sure it's going to pick up here on the video now, but it's a green. I think if I open it up like this, it's a green with different, they call it the muslin background. So it's a green with these like almost blemishes in there. Looks beautiful in a video or in pictures. And there's also this one, which you've seen a lot on the videos, which is the blue with the white, and this is called a muslin background. So I just take it to the car and just chuck them all into the car. Then I know they wanted a black or they wanted a white, there's the background, but if anything else happens, maybe even I'm thinking, maybe we need a background change. Go out to the car, just grab it, go back in, continue shooting, problem solved. Or take it into the location with you if you want to. But then I'm prepared. So now I'm taking all my backgrounds with. I'm not taking just the one the client requested. Okay, then when you're taking your pictures, you also need to be careful with your gear. Like for instance, when I'm deciding which lights to take with me, do I take my studio lights with me? Because when I do that, I take them and I put it in that case right there. It might show up in the video, I'm not sure. And I pack all my lights in there and I take it with me. It's got little wheels, I just roll it with me. That is if I'm going to use the lights that work on electricity, because for them I need power. But I can also use my speed lights. Now the speed lights, here's a Nikon SB910. This is the speed lights I use most of the time. And I can use this the same as I do these. And I'll show you what happened once when I had to use this because there wasn't electricity at the spot, the power went out. So then I can shoot with this softbox, but by using the speed light at the back. Now this thing runs on rechargeable batteries, so I don't need to worry that I need to have a plug to power my lights with. So usually I will decide, what am I going to do? Do I have electricity where I'm going? Can I go with just those? It's a lot less to take with me. There's less wires, because the moment you've got wires, you need to take care about your gear, that people don't fall over the wires or just completely basically bump your entire light over, and they might kick the wire or fall over the wire, and there goes your studio light. So what I usually do is I've got this tape. Now this is very important that you use the right tape, because you can really mess up someone's floor, carpet, wall, wherever you're sticking your cables or your gear to the wall with it. Just make sure you've got the right tape. Now they call it gaffer tape. What happened is I went to a hardware store and asked them, do you have something called gaffer tape? I know what it is, they don't. They just look at me, what? Okay, so I looked at what they've got and I saw this. Now this is just green because they had lots of different colors, and I wanted to make sure people can see it. So I also chose a vibrant color as well, as instead of just using black or white. Now a tape that I've seen a lot of people use, I don't know what to call this. It's some type of insulation, I think masking tape. I know this changes around the world, different names at different places, but this is terrible tape to use. It's not strong, it rips very easily, and this leaves a terrible residue on the ground. So if I'm using this maybe on tiles, you pull it off, you're going to see a lot of this stays behind us. The moment it gets hot, so maybe the sun's shining or it just gets hot where it is, you'll notice it gets very, very sticky. So getting it off, and it stays on your cables as well. You need to clean it off your cables for your studio lights as well. It's terrible. Then you've also got this insulation tape, electrical tape that I use for wires. So this also not the best idea. So I found this, and I think they call this, I think duct tape. I don't know what it's going to be where you are in the world, but this is what it said on the stand, I think, when I bought it. So what I did was I looked at the tape they got, and this was the closest I could find to gaffer tape. And I told them, can I just demo it quickly? They gave me a roll. I opened it up, stuck a cable to the ground. It was nice and strong. The cable's not going anywhere. And when I pulled it off, no residue. And this works like a dream. And you don't need to use the entire roll because it's expensive stuff. You don't want to just tape the entire cable. You can just tape little segments. It's going to save the tape as well. You can even cut the tape like that and just stick all the wires to the ground. The tape's going to last you a lot longer. So that's what I do to make sure that people don't fall over my cables. Okay, so now you decided to take your studio lights with, you've got cables. That's what I will do to make sure my cables, people don't trip over them. Then also I decide which softboxes I will take with me. Now for instance, on a specific shoot I did, the location that I was told the way the location would be was a very, very large or very big building, and I knew I had to have big lights. I wanted to do a very big shoot. I wanted soft light. Now the softboxes I used are a lot larger than this. It's a 1.4 meter octabox, so it's basically like that for one light. We got to the location, not what we were told. The room was so, or the building or area was so tiny that if I put the two softboxes, which already will take up almost 3 meters if I put them next to each other, there's no room for me to shoot. So it's big problem. So luckily we had a little bit of time so that my assistant could rush out, and quickly grab these two softboxes from the studio, go back. It was very close to the studio, thank God. There was enough time, because I wouldn't have been able to shoot with those big softboxes. So I quickly fitted those. So now that hasn't happened anymore. When I'm going out and I do use those big ones, I take these along as backup. So I know if something like that ever happens again, I've got these softboxes. I can just quickly just put them on, and no one even needs to know there was problems. Okay, then what happened on that also specific day is we had problems with electricity. So what I did was I took my studio lights, set them up, and I was shooting, and suddenly, whoop, there goes the power. Electricity is off. So I knew stuff like that could happen, and then, of course, we currently have lots of electricity issues. I took 3 of these brackets with me, and I packed it into that case that my studio lights goes into, packed it in there. So what I do is I take the softbox off the light, take the entire light off the stand, and I put that in its place. So then this just screws into the light stand. You'll notice it's got this hole right here, and that's where this softbox just, there's like 3 mounts right there. It just goes in there, locks in place, and you just lock this pin in there and the softbox on this. Now the nice thing is I can now put my speed light, which is running off batteries. So even if the electricity is off, I could still continue working. And that was a full day shoot. I think we were busy like 13 or 14 hours. And the electricity actually went out 3 times during that day. So what you do is you've got transceivers like these. So this comes off the stand, goes on top of the camera, and on the hot shoe where the flash would go on. And then this one fits on this stand. I also take this stand off, it just slips in place there. And then the flash will go on top of that unit and will come in here. And then I'm shooting this into the softbox, so I basically have the same lights. Now this is not as powerful as the studio lights, so I have to adjust my settings. So I adjusted my settings, took my pictures, electricity came back on, took everything off, put the other lights back on, changed my camera settings. An hour or so later, power went off again. I had to change it again. Kept shooting. No one even notices when I look at the pictures now. If you look at all the pictures, everything looks the same because I adjusted my settings. I compensated for the different lights. But I had the ability to continue working because I had these brackets. If I didn't have this with me, I would have had serious problems because I think that the electricity was out total of like 2-3 hours in that day, and it went off 3 times. So if I didn't have this, big problems. So that's what I said. What I said earlier, always think ahead. What could go wrong? You don't need to be super paranoid, but what could go wrong? And then you make sure you pack your gear that can help you when that happens. And that's why I did that. If I decided to use only my speed lights, I don't take the lights with me. I just take these brackets with me, my speed lights, and then softboxes. So I pack lighter when I do that. Okay, so I've covered that. I've covered electricity part, the softboxes, and then a tripod. Sometimes you think, okay, I'm just going to be taking pictures of people. Do I really need to take a tripod with? Now, maybe you're taking pictures for a magazine and they want consistency for the pictures. Or even if it's just taking pictures for yourself on a location, you want to take beautiful pictures, you want consistency. If you keep moving your camera around, your pictures are going to look different. So sometimes I take my tripod with, I set up my shot, my lights and everything, and people can just move in place. And then the pictures stay exactly the same. The background doesn't change. Okay, so like I said earlier, also something I pack. If I go out, I maybe do landscapes. Another thing I forgot. I need to come back here. You might wonder, what's this big yellow thing sitting here? Okay, this is a sandbag. So when I come to the studio pictures I talked about earlier, when I'm using the big softbox, that 1.4 octabox, the softbox is very heavy, so the entire light can actually tilt forward. It's front heavy. So you put a sandbag like this, it's got a clip here as well. You just attach it to the back side of the light, and it balances the light so that the light doesn't fall forward. If you don't have anything like that, I've previously grabbed like just once a woman's handbag and just put it on the back of my lights, and I asked her, what's in this? Is there bricks in here? This thing is so heavy. So I use something else. Just look for something you can put at the back of your lights. It doesn't fall forward. But that's why I bought these, and I specifically bought these because of these lines, and then people can see my lights as well. So if people are walking right into your light with that thing on, it's like, really, you weren't looking. Okay, so that's covering all that. And then, yeah, so if you go and do something else, like maybe landscapes, like I said, pack the right gear. Don't say, okay, there's tons of light out, I'm not going to pack my tripod. You might not know, you might just encounter a waterfall. You've got this beautiful landscape, you want to do a long exposure to make the water go all milky. You're going to have a very hard time doing that if you don't have a tripod. So take your tripod along. If you can't pack a tripod because you have got limited space, then look at a GorillaPod. Now, I've shot a video on GorillaPods as well. I'll include the link here so you can watch that video, where it's a very tiny tripod and you can put flashes and everything on there, or your camera, and you can, for instance, maybe you've got a tree trunk or something, you can put it around a tree trunk and you can take a picture and the camera will be still. So always make sure you've got support if you want to take pictures like that. Then you might be thinking, okay, I'm only going to be taking landscapes, so I don't think I'll be taking any other pictures. Now you might come across flowers. You think, oh, these flowers are beautiful. Oh, the sun is terrible. The contrast is too high, and I really want to take pictures of this flower. So keep this in your car. This is a 5-in-1 reflector. It's not big. When you open it up, it gets pretty large. This is a 110 centimeter. So it opens up to this. But the nice thing is, if you open reflector up like this, on the inside of the reflector there's a translucent section which is the same as this. So then you can have softer light. So you just keep it over a flower like this, and then the light shines through here, which is the harsh sunlight, which shines through here. It makes softer light, and then you can take a picture of the flower. Use a little squirt bottle. Take a squirt bottle with. Squirt some water on the flower, makes it look like it was just raining. You put that over the flower, it's like it's overcast weather. There you go. You've got an awesome shot because you packed your reflector. Like I said, you go to the ocean, pack your lens cleaner. Just teeny tiny things you need to take with you when you pack your gear. So to put everything like together, before you do a shoot, just think, where are you going? What can go wrong? What will the lighting conditions be like? Do I need support for my camera? Is there a specific picture I want to take? And then if you just think that through, you'll immediately start to encounter some problem areas which you might encounter, and then pack the gear that you need, and there you go. You'll be sorted for the day and you'll be taking awesome pictures. Okay, that's all for this week's episode, and then I'll see you again next week when we look at live view focusing as well as manual focusing. That's all for me for this week. Bye.